Goodbye.
So you want me to start?
Yes, you can start, Marvin.
Yes. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to the planning committee meeting. It is 5:01 p.m. We'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll begin with doing roll call. Don Davenport.
Here.
Mark Ducey.
Here.
Sean Kennedy. Michelle Bucco. Here. VP Stand. Martha Davis.
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
delay. Let's see, how come we're still standing?
Illusion.
Sean.
He did not answer. Okay, so we'll continue.
Okay, so here we are once again, planning committee, working on hopefully a solution to our regional agreement. It's going to be Sean.
That's weird.
Hello, Sean. I put you on speaker. You're in the meeting.
You're blocked.
All right, thank you.
Okay. I was just getting started. We've already done all the preliminaries. So.
Excellent, okay.
So the memo that was distributed to everybody basically just takes us through the history of how we got to this point and refreshes everyone's memory on the architecture of this multilateral negotiation. I think one of the things that is sort of been difficult for me is that we're on this annual track because any kind of change we make has to be ready for the town meeting. Seems like every time town meeting comes up, something occurs within the context of discussions with the regional agreement, which means we don't quite get it across the finish line. And then we kind of get delayed for a whole other year because that's our next chance to have a bite of the apple. So I just put that out there. I'll also put out that for the last year, the middle school has been really the sticking point. The thing that has, I think, maybe shifted and created a little bit of opportunity to try to think differently is the middle school entering the SOA phase for the core building program. There's a vote on the school committee agenda tomorrow, or Thursday night, as a matter of fact. It's a formal vote with all the required language authorizing the district to submit its statement of interest for the middle school to be in the core program with the MSBA. And so, you know, as I ended this memo, I was somewhat curious about whether we could capitalize on that to sort of think differently about getting to some kind of a solution on the regional agreement. I do know that there have been some informal discussions between Brian and Nick around it. I know there have been some informal discussions between the legal counsel for Wilbraham and the legal counsel for the school committee on it. I received an update from Attorney Sweeney. He reported that it was a good conversation and he felt that the attorney for Wilbraham was interested in being as creative as possible in getting to yes. And interestingly, even though they did not have access to this memo, and I think their conversation took place prior to my drafting the memo, they also were sort of interested in wondering if the middle school possibly entering the core program created an opportunity for an interim reset. You know, like if we could deal with sort of the period between now and whenever there's a new middle school or a substantially rebuilt middle school as sort of one phase of an agreement, either as a sideload of the agreement or a time-limited portion of the agreement, and then a subsequent agreement that talks about middle school being a regional building. So I put that out there as a way, hopefully, to restart the discussions.
Excellent, thank you.
So, in all practicality, if we get accepted, if the region gets accepted to the core program, the DESI is, or whoever approves that, is not gonna accept it not being a regional school, right?
Well, I mean,
I mean,
it
they're not
could,
gonna- they're not
it
gonna
could-
say, they're not gonna say, Wilbraham, you have to build a $165 million middle school. Good.
I think all the parties expressed publicly that they thought it made more sense for it to be a regional building.
Right, okay. And we've already agreed that 6 through 8 would be assigned to whatever building the committee agrees to, right? We all agreed to that, I think we agreed to that.
In principle, yeah.
Okay. And on page 6 here, is that the latest proposed, that's E, where you, despite the spelling error,
If that, I haven't made any changes since the last version of that.
This is acceptable to us, this agreement. We'd be very happy to put it on the town meeting floor tomorrow if we could, because we believe that, first of all, we need to start talking to the people that there's gonna be an expensive building one way or the other coming along, whether it's total renovation plus an addition or a new thing, right? I think we also understand that it's gonna be a regional school, because there's no other way to do it. Right? For the interim, it's already been decided that money isn't gonna, a lot of money's not gonna be put into this. You said that in your memo. The Wilbraham Select Board said that they don't believe that, they doubt the, what's the word, what's the exact words? They doubt the relevance of a study from 10 years ago, which I think we all agree it is relevant now. And so, we're happy with this, we're gonna do this tomorrow. We think the people need to know that they got a big expense coming down the line, and not be for 5 or 6 or 10 years, but it's coming, and this is what we need to do.
Let's be clear, I believe that regional agreement says all future capital costs be shared by both towns, correct?
For that middle school building, yes.
Yes. You're okay with that?
It says that all capital costs, if it becomes a regional building,
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say that.
no, it says that
It says it will be deemed a regional building if all the enrollment, if,
capital costs of district-owned equipment and properties.
right. And I think it specifies somewhere in there, and I don't have it in front of me, but I think it specifies somewhere in there that by virtue of the, how does it word it, John? The entire population of students goes to one school, it will become a regional school.
No, you took that out.
No.
That's not in this version of it.
And so we object to that. That we did discuss that. So we have not discussed this memo at any level. So I really can't speak much to this memo, but we object to that. We wanted to go back to the previous language which specified that it would be deemed a regional school by virtue of the enrollment.
So one thing that just occurs to me is this version of it could allow you, if the 3 parties were amenable to deem it a regional building, could deem the current structure a regional building.
We haven't had any discussions between Hamden and Wilbraham for a year.
Right.
So we've really not changed, I don't think either party has changed their position. Because we've not really had any discussions, not any meaningful, but just no discussions.
No.
So nothing's really changed.
Well, your memo, you're saying that we do not plan to make large capital investments in the building.
I think that's a fair statement from Wilbraham as well.
And in your recent budget, you've put in $105,000 for maintenance, right? And Hamden pays a portion of that.
Well, no. There's the capital costs,
And it's not capital cost, it's maintenance.
No, it's $105,000 in capital costs.
No, it's maintenance.
which budget are you referring to? Maybe we can clarify that.
Your, let's see, line item 10142200443705920. You got that memorized? You know the one.
Yeah, that's the operating budget,
Yeah, right.
yes.
Maintenance of the building, middle school, $105,000, FY '27.
Mhm. That's what,
I don't think anybody's disputing that. Well, we're not disputing that.
Okay.
Much like we pay 80% of the cost of Green Meadows.
Okay, so we're paying 20% of that for maintenance. You're not doing heavy maintenance. Then you have for your capital costs over there, you have Wilbraham Middle School exterior doors, $40,000, right? You have univent replacement, AC air handlers, $30,000. Well, that's, according to the lease, that's anything below 35,000 is
mhm.
the region's cost, so you don't need to pay that.
We rejected that.
What?
We rejected that.
Of course. I mean, what the hell, you got a mold problem, so reject the ventilation thing.
We rejected the under 35,000 ones.
How about the $35,000 one?
I don't know.
Because that says 35,000, the lease is 35,000 plus $1. So I guess my point being is, we're paying a share, I mean, just like you're paying 80% share of, everything else or whatever it is. And we're good with this E. And, I think, we feel that the only way to move it is to go before the town meeting and say, this is what the plan is, this is what's gonna happen, what do you think? If they say no, then we say, okay, we'll go back and we got the fall to square away. The other reason we reject, just so you know, the reason we rejected the lawyers talking to each other about this is that lawyers aren't policymakers. The elected officials are the policymakers. Lawyers, once we make a policy, they're the ones who are supposed to say, you can do it or can't do it, or this is how you get it done. So we need to make the policy, and then they can put it in legal jargon. So we're for this.
So Wilbraham last night voted to put a placeholder for the regional agreement on the warrant, so that's good, and we closed the warrant, so.
We
it's
have
there.
the same thing, we have the same.
But again, we don't agree with the most recent changes for the out, you know that, John, because we talked about that since.
Yep.
And
So
the reason you
nothing's
don't
changed.
agree with it is what?
We feel as though the capital cost should be shared by both towns, at least at some level.
Well, we're not gonna pay for capital costs that have been there for 10 years and not taken care of, or 12 years now. And the
And
only
since we've discontinued talks, we've not had any chance to resolve any of those issues,
Right,
because they were not productive.
correct. They were not productive. So you took out the 30,000?
I was told we took out
Sean, can you
anything,
mute yourself, please?
I was told we took out anything that was under 35,000. I don't know exactly what that meant.
$30,000.
So I'm not sure if the $35,000 one made the cut or not.
Isn't the reason that we have children who are in there for the next 6 years? Isn't that the reason? That we'd wanna do repairs and stuff to the building? You said no reason.
I didn't say there was no reason. I think you're gonna be very careful about what you do. You're not gonna wanna spend money that isn't absolutely necessary and probably for health or safety purposes,
Right.
unless it has to get spent. I mean, it only makes sense.
And there's a chance that instead of renovating that building, we could build a new building on the Minichog campus.
That's, sure, but who knows?
Or we have 35 acres to build
Sure.
a swamp, not swampland either.
Gonna give it to us for $1?
Build a school there, we might do that.
Those are all feasibility study questions.
Yep.
But I guess the stuck point is like, right now, we don't have language that we can bring forward to both towns, that both
Nope.
select boards will say, yes, this is good. Go for it.
Okay. So I think that,
What do you want the language to say?
The previous version was fine for us. And I don't remember exactly how it worked, but it was the previous version where it basically deemed it to be a regional building by virtue of the fact of the enrollment. Is that a fair characterization, John?
Yeah.
what would you see voted on by both towns, and that would be your safety? Because if one town says no and the other town says yes, it doesn't happen.
There was a memo that was shared to us, I don't know if you received a copy of it, but when Brian and Nick met, they built some structure around it, talking about caps. Would you be open to discussing the idea of caps?
What do you mean, only a certain amount of money?
Yeah. That was
Oh.
part of it. Like, we would only invest X amount of dollars into the building over the next 6 years. I think the arbitrary number was $1 million or something like that. But but my concern around that, frankly, is you just don't know what's gonna happen. You just don't know what's gonna happen, but, I mean, I'm trying to find common ground where we can move this thing forward. And there's gotta be common ground, but we need to talk to find the common ground. We're not gonna find it in our own corners.
I don't remember seeing that, but.
You may not have seen it. Nick sent it to us, so I'm not sure if Brian shared that with you as well. But that's what Nick said was discussed between him and Brian. And again, I don't necessarily understand all those details, how that would work down. I'm not admitting to that or saying that, I'm just,
But let's go back to Sean's point. If we say, if we do this thing though, but then that becomes part of the budget, and then isn't that a problem, is voted no, and then you have to go back and vote a whole new budget?
Mhm.
What if we do something with this committee, that before it can go any capital expenses to the middle school, has to be approved through this committee before it goes to the school committee, where before the school committee even votes on it, we're getting 2 school committee members to put in their say, and then we have 2 select people here that would, you know, say, okay, yeah, this is good, we're good for this, and that would give it an extra, I don't know, you know, an extra vetting. Does that sound like an idea, or a committee, doesn't have to be this committee,
And Desi has to approve all this anyhow, right?
has to approve the language.
Well, I don't know if they would have to approve that. That could be like a side letter or agreement between,
Member of understanding or
Right.
something.
because then you're talking about, I mean, I guess what would, I believe, now, I'm really out of my league here because I'm not an attorney, but I believe that would be an agreement between the select boards and the school committee if they wanted, because they would basically be saying, we're giving up some of our authority to this group to basically preclude us from even considering certain things, like if you don't agree to it, then it can't come to us as a budgetary consideration.
But this is just preventing us going through the whole thing and then having it rejected when it goes to the
No,
town.
I know what you're saying.
This is a
I know what you're saying, but I think the school committee would
So then
have
it
to
would
say,
skip the
okay.
school committee?
No, from here, we would make a recommendation, it has passed 4-0, you know, to the school committee. So the school committee said, okay, we have both select boards, and Hamden and Wilbraham representatives from the school committee are giving thumbs up for this. So I think it just gives it
And then
a,
what? And then what?
And then the
It
school
doesn't go-
committee-
It wouldn't go to town meeting?
and then it would go to town meeting.
So it's just like an extra step, it's like having a subcommittee, so it's not
Yeah.
any different than anything else, but it's, we can give a recommendation, and it doesn't mean that,
Ultimately, it's town meeting
give it-
that decides.
yeah. it doesn't
Yeah,
give
but
it
if
any
it
more
doesn't,
clout or-
pass through here, you know, then we have reason to believe that it wouldn't pass at town meeting.
Or that the school committee wouldn't put it in its budget.
Right. I'm just saying, we're the canary in the coal mine, so to speak.
Yeah.
If we live, then it goes through, if we die, then it doesn't.
What plans would you have for the next 5 years? What would be the?
With middle school capital
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah, just,
The main thing I wanna do right now is address the floors. That's the big one. And then it's maintaining the HVAC system, you know. Everything there is basically end of life, so it's replacing things as they break. It's trying to make the airflow as good as you can, but it's, you know, you're fighting a battle that is hard to win because, you know, even when the equipment was its best, it wasn't really up to current standards.
But I don't know if anybody really has a crystal ball on what might come along.
Right.
yeah.
Can I make a, 2 years ago, I brought this up, and it's something I ran by
I'd say
some real
doors, too.
estate.
Well, I think doors can be repaired. I don't think you need to replace doors. I mean, there might be one or two you need to replace, but not a wholesale effort, right?
I think some of the doors on the outside are pretty bad,
Well, you could probably put a plate over them.
maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, that's another area that I'm not an expert in. but
No,
yes.
nor am I, nor am I. I just think there's opportunities to replace, I don't know if you have to replace many, there might be a few, but I think you could certainly, do temporary repairs to limp you through the next 5 or 6 years.
But whatever happens to that building, it's gonna need new doors, or it's gonna need doors.
No, it's
right?
not, because we don't know what's gonna be done with it at the end of that. If you sold that building, at the end, they'd probably tear it down.
Okay. So what I had said a couple of years
Right,
ago,
I mean,
I don't know if you remember what I brought up was, and just follow me through it, because I know, so basically, the school district buys Wilbraham Middle School, whether it's just the building, whether it's the land in the building, that it doesn't matter, let's just say it's just the building, okay? So Hamden has to come, let's say it's for $100 million, I'm just saying, easy number to do with. So Hamden would have to come up with what?
20 million.
20 million, right, 19 million, right? So instead of Hamden saying, here's 20 million and giving it to Wilbraham, Wilbraham would hold the note, okay? So it's now owned by both. Hamden owes Wilbraham, you know, $19 million, right? Follow me on this.
I like this.
But what happens is, with whatever we do, with whatever happens to the building, right? If it's ever sold, like, so say if we decide to put something over here and we sell, and then, you know, Wilbraham would sell that building or whatever, then then whatever the money that comes in, the profit, you know, that would go to Hamden, it would come out of that 19 million, and anything over that 19 million as a percentage of profits would go to Hamden.
I can't speak.
So you would have ownership, but then it would just make all these questions moot, because any improvements that you do to the building upon sale in the future, if it gets sold, that would be something that would go back to the town of Hamden, a percentage.
Well, the reality is, I think the property's probably worth more than the building. So I'm not sure that helps, unless you restructure the way the property lines are. I don't know, we haven't discussed any of that, so
Right, so say if it's $10 million for the building, that's
I don't think that building's worth $10 million.
great.
Anybody who buys that building is gonna tear it down.
Right, so let's call, but they'd still have to buy the building in order to tear it down.
Yeah, we would, of course.
right? So I'm just saying that if we work something in the language so that no money exchanges hands, just ownership does, so then any investment that Hamden puts into that building is something potentially they can get back on a sale, right?
I guess my point is, whatever investment you make into that building, I think it's money lost. If you put $5 million into that building over the next 5 years, and then you sell it, and you sell it for, and you're selling the land, really, is what you're doing. They're gonna tear the building down, I think. Again, I don't think there's not a value in the building itself per se, it's the property.
That's what I'm saying. So then what do you value the building at? $1 million, or you value it at nothing? If it's nothing, let's do the sale, it's nothing, and then Hamden owns it, and whatever
So
money
you want,
can
you
get
want
out
the
of it.
building with no property?
I'm saying, whatever makes the deal work, whatever you both can agree with.
I can't answer these questions, because this is a select board question, I'm not prepared to talk about.
But is what I'm saying sound insane, or does it sound something that might answer all your questions?
Sounds insane.
Okay.
I just think it's the property that's more valuable,
Right?
and so,
It's been said at previous meetings. I mean, the school committee discussed purchasing the building, and the school committee voted that they were not interested in.
I'll tell you a story. I ran into Senator Oliveira, and I spoke to him about our old townhouse. And I said to him, you know, we could really use somebody who's got $10 million to buy that thing. And he said, yeah, every town in the Commonwealth is looking for someone with $10 million
Yeah.
to buy one of their buildings,
Yeah.
and no one's buying.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we're going through a similar thing with Memorial, although we haven't gotten that far yet, but I don't think the building is worth, it's the property that's worth it. Because if somebody comes in, they're gonna gut the whole thing if they keep it all.
Great, so then the sale should be for the whole thing, the property and the building, everything.
Well, now you're talking about money that Hamden, I don't think is gonna wanna pony up.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, if you hold the note, they don't have to pony it up until there's an actual sale. So where they can recoup their money, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, they're not probably gonna recoup the money. Cause I can't speak about hypotheticals, it's difficult.
I wanna talk about caps again.
Mhm.
Caps. And.
That was discussed between Brian and Nick, and so we haven't had a lot of discussion.
I gotta find out.
Yeah,
What they're talking about.
I'll forward you the memo that we received if you want.
Okay, would you please?
I need your email.
I think I sent you the email in the past.
I think you probably have.
I think it's on anything I send you. too.
Okay, all right, I'll look
It's
for
on-
it.
down
Yeah,
here
I'll look
on-
for it.
Yeah,
and when I send
If not, I'll send it to you and you can, yeah.
The
Thank you.
meetings and the reminders.
Even if you can't figure out his email, could you send it to me anyways?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
And the other thing is, I wanna talk about, in 2016, when they talked about the regionalization of the two schools, there was some discussion about, it said that the Hamden students would go there from 2017 to 2022. And I guess the thought would be that you could be looking at a new school or renovations or whatever. That was the, if my secretary did this properly. Bear with me. Let's see, yeah. It says that the lease between the regional district and the member towns of Wilbraham shall continue with expense allocation modified as following: operating expenses in the nature of capital outlay, including those incurred for the unified middle school and maintenance for the Thornton Burgess and the Hamlin Way portion to member towns provided in section. Then it says, and then the online explanation that says, under this article, the town would amend the Hamden-Wilbraham Regional School District Agreement so as to allow students in grades 6 through 8 to cross town lines to attend a unified regional middle school located at the current Wilbraham Middle School for the next 5 years, which would also include the town jointly assuming operational expenses relative to said middle school unification. The agreement would terminate in 2022 if another vote is not taken.
So was this voted on and passed?
No, this was passed in Wilbraham, but not in Hamden.
Okay, all right, so it's a,
So it's not, but I'm just
Yeah.
wondering what the, and probably never know what the discussions were around.
No, I
that
do,
time.
I do remember discussions. The discussions were if we entered an agreement to do the middle school being for both towns, then we would go for the MSBA program, and we would have went through that for renovations or whatever.
But because that article never passed, then
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
never,
it
never applied.
It didn't pass in hand in the end.
I guess that's what they're thinking about, that kind of thing, an interim.
Mhm. Right.
I raised a question
So
last,
maybe we have an interim thing with a cap.
Mhm.
I don't know how the cap works, because if you get some major repair, I don't know what you
Yeah,
do.
I don't know what you do with that, right?
You know,
Well, then we'd go to town meetings and you vote on it. To override?
Again, I think we're trying to find the common ground, so I think we're open to finding common ground. I don't know where that common ground is, we haven't found it yet, but I know we're not gonna find it in our own corners. John, I asked at the last meeting, how Hamden even votes on the core program if they don't own the building. Did we ever find anything else more about that? I mean, I'm not an attorney either, so it's but I question that.
So, I did have a little bit of a discussion earlier today, and that's why I believe it's important to make some changes to the regional agreement, you know, or to have some kind of document that says that the towns in the district are bound to each other for this process. Because I mean, if it's in the regional agreement, it's straightforward. You know, then you're saying, you know,
Yeah.
as per the agreement, and when we spoke to the MSBA earlier in the fall, they said, well, our default is we're gonna do whatever your regional agreement says, which is kind of how that language got in there that caused all the problems, which I apologize for, once again. But in the absence of that, I imagine you could have a side letter, or you could have some other agreement just for the purpose of the process that says the two towns and school district agree to enter into the process. They agree to share the costs of the feasibility study and the actual construction costs of the building, and then to amend the regional agreement as follows.
And that's where
Basically putting that language.
But that's where my question became, because I was like, how do you have a side note superseding the regional agreement that was voted on by the voters? It doesn't make sense intuitively to me. And again, I'm not an attorney, so the question became down at the last meeting, I don't think you were there, but the question was, if Hamden doesn't have anything to do with this building, no ownership in the building, how can you vote on a feasibility study to potentially renovate the building that you have no ownership in? Because we don't know what the feasibility study will come back, it might just say renovate it. You have no ownership in it. How can you obligate
Say
your
yes or no.
taxpayer
Yeah,
to that?
And that would be something that would come up in discovery, so then that's why I'm thinking that it might end up being over here.
Well, I don't know
Or in
whether,
Hampton on the.
I don't know whether such an instrument would have to go before the town meeting, but I do know that to appropriate the funds would have to go before the town, so they would have that. So it's not like.
Correct. Well, no, it wouldn't have to. The select board could just not let it happen, not send it to the
You could just do
towns.
an IMA,
I don't know what that is.
intermunicipal agreement.
I don't, yeah, again, I'm not an attorney, so I just asked the question, did the attorneys ever talk about that? I don't think we've talked, I don't think,
So explain that to me, how would, let's say, we were talking about even the feasibility studies, a seven-figure number, how would the towns appropriate that money without getting authorization?
so if
from
the school
voters?
committee borrowed it, the select boards could just not veto it.
That could happen.
Right.
That's the way.
Excuse me, does someone?
I don't think that will
And that-
happen.
And that money would be rolled over to the core program if it.
But I don't know how you could
Huh?
do that legally. But again, I'm not an attorney.
Thing was
Good question.
recorded, so I.
Oh, okay. It sounds like someone's breathing on
Oh.
someone's phone. Does somebody have
It came
someone
back
on the
on
line?
there. It did.
Am I breathing too hard for you?
No, it's just, I hear like it's on a cell phone, like you could hear, can no one else hear it?
I could hear it, but
What
it
is
lost the
it?
connection for a few minutes on yours.
Okay, well now it's stopped.
So what do you need from us?
I guess I need the sparks of a conversation that I heard starting to flare up into, a roaring fire of collaboration.
I'm sure we would be open to meeting to discuss this further,
Very
John.
Shakespearean.
I'm sure I'm confident the Wilbraham Select Board would be willing to meet. I mean, we've been willing to meet all along, so.
You guys should make a date.
Mhm.
Sounds like it.
Do we want to host it?
Takes two to date.
I don't think we should be involved in the conversation. I think as a conversation, we should select boards.
But I think Nick and Brian tried to create some structure, so, some
That's
framework.
my opinion.
Mhm.
I'll talk to Ryan tomorrow and say, call it, make a date with these characters. I mean, my colleagues.
I'm sure we're open to it.
Well, the cap thing might be interesting, and I mean, you could write something that fills in the gap for, how long does it take, the core process?
6 years probably.
I mean,
Mhm.
you probably only need 3 years, right? Because then you would do the feasibility study, then they'd make a decision, and then we're all in, because you're not doing anything at the other
Well,
school.
you may need to do something, that's the point. That's the scary part, because if the roof caves in, which it's new, so it's not, but I mean, if something like, if two of the boilers die, then you need to put $1 million of boilers into place, And we just got a quote for memorial boiler, it's $440,000. I know we replaced one boiler recently, so.
Mhm.
What about the boiler at the high school, is that still on?
It's being
Heat
done-
exchange?
Yeah, it's being done through the capital stabilization
Oh,
fund.
that's good.
And it wasn't $450,000 or
168.
168.
It was just the heat exchanger.
Right.
Just,
Right.
okay.
Mhm.
All right,
Okay.
I'll see if I'll have my social secretary for Dave. I'll have my people call your people?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just have Brian reach out to Nick, or Nick reach out to Brian, doesn't matter which way it happens, but yeah.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I'd like to get this done for the town meeting in May.
You think?
Well, I think, I'm gonna say again, I think we have to tell the people we've got a big bill coming, one way or the other.
It's a big bill.
One
And
way
it's
or
probably one of the more important bills we have. I mean, to me, it's,
One
speaking for
way-
myself only, it's the number one priority from a capital perspective, from my perspective.
One way or the other,
You gotta do something. I mean, just by virtue of the enrollment alone changing so dramatically over the next 10 years.
And also just remember, $1 million invested in this, we get reimbursed afterwards if the program goes through.
And the important thing is, we're saying 10 years the enrollment's gonna grow that much. It'll be before that, and this'll take 6 years. You don't have much time to act on it.
Mhm.
This is, I have thought, good, but what would you do if they said, you
No.
should renovate the whole place, where you put the kids while you're renovating?
That's part of the cost.
That would be part of the feasibility study. You'd have to build some flex space as part of it.
Nice. Okay,
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries, we're adjourned 5:43.
Thank you.
Oh,
Oh, you want to hear about that?
did you get my other amendment that way?
The other amendment?
Yeah.